Now, let's have a conversation with Mark Ouko. Mark is very many things, and he will tell us those very, very many things that he is. But we know that he is a youth coordinator at National Students' Council of Kenya. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Welcome. So to fix the nation together.
Asante.
Yeah.
And good morning to all our Kenyan cousins.
Good morning, cousins.
It's a country of cousins.
Yep.
Asante sana.
Hakuna in-laws, kwani?
Hapana, ni cousins. We're also cousins.
We're also cousins.
We're all
Fusion
cousins.
cousins. Yes.
Surely.
Yes.
Okay, Jano, cousin Jano.
Cousin
Yes.
Jano.
Please
Yes.
welcome cousin Mark.
Yes, cousin Mark, how are you?
I'm fine.
In just a few moments, obviously, we'll get your reaction to this very tragic story. But first, the quote today by Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili.
Yes.
She said on this show when she came here a few weeks ago,
Yes.
integrity is not complete until it is consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what she said, right? You agree with that? Integrity is not complete until it is consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I do agree with that because the common trend that you see, especially in adaptational use of integrity, is we tend to see it seasonally used, because what is relatively integrous to one person, somebody will consider not to be so integrous. And I think this is something that we have often seen in our political class. So I do agree with him that integrity is only applicable when it's consistent. Yeah.
It's a good one.
Consistency is a tricky bit.
Yes. That's where people start to lose out. We'll speak about the National Students' Council Kenya, just the structure.
Yes.
But just wanted to get your response and reactions to this tragic death
Yes.
of Albert Ojwang.
Yes.
Yeah, your thoughts on it?
First of all, I want to send my condolences to the family, because Albert, first of all, is a young man that I actually knew, not so much as a personal level, but I have interacted with him, especially at our work at the National Students' Council of Kenya. He was one of the young people whom we worked with from Migori, a very calm gentleman, not so aggressive. And I actually, one of my friend had called me the night that he was arrested, and he told me this is just a normal arrest, that I normally receive calls, and that he will be out probably by Monday. Then, unfortunately, we heard that he had passed out under these due circumstances. My due response to this is that I think there has been so much thoughts as to why he was probably killed. The fact is that he was not that influential. If there was if there are bloggers you are to look for, you'd look for, at the level of, say, Maverick Ouko, people who have over 500,000. You say these will be a threat to the state, because I don't think even this panel anybody had ever heard about Ojwang ever before. So, in my general thoughts, I think Albert died as a proxy collateral. In my thought, he died as a proxy collateral. And what do I mean? He died as a proxy collateral. Now, in our systemic way in Kenyan politics, there are three kinds of politics, right? There is the mass politics, where we talk the high cousins thing. Then there's the boardroom politics, where we talk, where you are in this thing. Then there's now the state politics. And he died as a result of this state politics. And what is happening, and from what we are gathering, is that there are some chiefs, top chiefs, who were not so much in good terms, and maybe somebody was using Albert as a blogger, and in the process, when you want to get to somebody big, you can also somebody kill somebody proxily. So in my general thought, he has died as a proxy collateral.
It will be very unfortunate. We'll wait for the investigations, and this time, of course, keep our eye open that the investigations really unearth what exactly happened to him and how he ended up here.
Yes.
But I find it interesting the way you've described it. There's various tiers of politics that's at play in this country.
Yes.
How do you know which one you're playing at any point in time?
Right. I think it's more structural, right? So the mass politics is where you go and meet with the masses. It's where the reggae style high cousins thing. That's the mass politics. Then we have the boardroom politics. The boardroom politics is where you have the technocrats, the intellectuals. The podcast is where you have the Latif, Janet, Miriam here, discussing all these big ideas. Then we have the state politics. The state politics is where now is where the deals are done. It's where you have the dirty game is. It's where you have the NIS, the DCI. It's where you need to be watching yourself. So the state politics happens to be the most dangerous kind of politics because it's like if you rephrase from the words of this famous actor from House of Cards. I don't know if you have House of Cards. Frank Underwood says, "Hunt or be hunted."
Hunt or be hunted. I think of the way we do our politics. That primarily is the problem. You're either the prey or you're the predator. I'm thinking, is there not a different way to do this? But let me bring it down to how we do youth politics, student leadership, student governance as a whole. How much does it mirror the way we do our national politics?
I've often heard people saying that there might be a change of politics in Kenya because of some generational change, etc., etc. But I've always said the more things change, the more they still remain the same. The politics in this country is still going to be ethnically rooted for a very long time, because even if you go to our Kenyan universities, you'll still find those tribal regrouping. There is the Unagi group, the Mount Kenya Youth, I don't know what association. There is the Wakamba whatever. There is the coastal group. So I don't think it will be still far-fetched. I think unless we change our inherent values as a country, even the young people in this country will still just follow the same route.
But I do see that shift happening in national politics. Right now I see people agitating more for change and for what they want and less for their person. It's not across the board for sure. It's not everybody. But that shift is definitely happening to some extent in national politics. Can the same be said at student governance level and youth politics?
Well, one of the things is that there is this construct of politics that is coming up, and it's often known as politics of the ground and politics of social media. In this current new construct of social media, we are seeing people who are highly principled. Their favorite candidate there will be a Maraga Umtata candidate. They will criticize everything and anything. But
woke politics.
Yes, woke politics, and we are seeing people. Seemingly there's some sense of high civilness, right? But is this thing actually really replicated in the ground politics? Because the things that you're seeing is that the same young people who are insulting, will even be insulting Waziri Wandai here on social media. These are the same young people whom, when they meet the cabinet minister, will be still asking him for handouts. These are the same people on social media will say their favorite candidate is Maraga. But ask yourself, if he was to call for a rally today, even say on Uhuru Park, how many young people come up and show up for him? So I think the more
I wouldn't
things
be worried
change,
about the ones who show up in the rally. If there was a snap election today, how many would vote for him? I think would be the one that's a better indicator.
they won't vote for him.
Yeah.
They won't
And
vote
what does
for-
that speak to?
I think Kenyans still vote based on familiarity. I think so. There's a concept called inertia thinking. Okay, inertia thinking is, and this is a I don't know to call it a mental disease that Kenyans suffer from. Inertia thinking is a form of thinking where, although you are faced with much better, beautiful prospects, you'll rather stay where you still are. It's like, for example, at gate A, there's a crocodile. At gate B, there's a snake. Here where I'm seated, assuming it's William Ruto, it's very hot. The temperatures are really bad. I don't like it. But when I think about that too, I'm going to meet a crocodile. When I go to that sea, I'm still seeing a snake. So I'd rather stay where I am.
Right. But is that inertia thinking or just a lack of options? Because I'm thinking about it as a ballot, for example, the snake, crocodile, etc. Snake and crocodile are not good options to run towards. Either way, you can take your chances. You start checking if the snake is venomous or good luck with that. Crocodile, good luck. So when Kenyans are at the ballot, they're often just faced with a lack of choice or the illusion of choice. It's candidate 1, 2, 3, but it's really people who have been through the system over and over again. Even in student politics, they're being propped up by other people who are in national politics or who have been in power for a while. So that's the thing. Is it inertia thinking, or it's just a genuine lack of choices?
No, I think it's actually still inertia thinking. And inertia thinking is something that we all face. Generally, human beings don't like doing things, okay? They don't like the option of doing something. So it's like, for example, Miriam, you're given the option. Can you leave for America? No. Do you want to leave for Tanzania? No. People don't like making choices. That's the thing. They rather stay
I'd
where
rather
they
stay where I am
they stay.
than
they
choose
are.
between America and
Yes,
Tanzania.
the risk
Because
of-
you're familiar with where you
Yes,
are.
the risk of doing something is something that people don't like doing. They rather stay where they are. So yeah, so that's what's generally happening.
I wanted to find out about this National Students' Council of Kenya structure,
Yes.
very briefly.
Yes.
Yeah, how is it
First of all, what
structured?
is it?
Yeah, what is it? How is it structured? Just
So
briefly.
it's a council under the Ministry of Education that stands for programs for students under in schools in Kenya from primary, secondary to university level, and those who are still under the youth bracket. So the elections from the sub-county level, constituency level, county level, up to the national level. So we also have the National Council, which with different dockets, it's like an entire cabinet itself. Yes.
So students in primary also elect people into the National Students' Council?
Yes,
So is it like what, school prefects?
No, it's not school. It's the students are also involved, but it's a form of an election. It's like it's a replication of the National Youth Council, but it's only that it's more concerned with young people who are still school ongoing.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's the mandate?
Our mandate is, just doing general coordination amongst the schools within the country. If their programs, say, whether it's sports related, whether it's based on activism, whether it's education, any kind of program that's related, but normally delegated from the ministry itself.
Give us an activity that you've undertaken just like recently as a student's
So,
council.
for example, on Environmental Day, right? How do we then coordinate, the environmental program day among schools, across the nation? So that's one of like a default function that we do. Yes.
Okay. I want to come back still at some point and continue on what you were saying about leadership and our choices, because I think it was important.
Yes.
But now I want to bring it to campus.
Yes.
There's a lot of issues around mental health and
Yes.
sexual harassment, for example.
yes.
How are you actively able to address those? What are some of the things that you're proposing or doing just to support the students who are dealing with some of those major issues on campus?
Yes, so I think it's just actively continued discussions, right? So like, for example, we'd organize a seminar, if say, like, for example, June now, it's more about men's mental health. We call, the students from the universities, bring a guest talk, just continue discussions, it's one of the things, there are recommendations that we'll then make to the ministry in how then do we support students in, say, a particular area that they are going through a struggle. So just continue discussions and recommendations made to the ministry itself, then they will react on it.
What's a major thing that's required? Because I don't have the data, but anecdotally, you'll hear that there's a lot of cases of harassment, intimidation, whether it's lecturer, student, whether it's boyfriend and girlfriend. It's quite rampant, actually, across the board. I know that speaks to many factors, but yeah, sexual harassment, mental health. As Mark, what do you think needs to be done? You're talking about recommendations, but what's the one thing that maybe we're missing that needs to be addressed?
I think it all narrows down to culture, right? It's it normally comes to the very subtle things, right? So, for example, I had seen previously when people are saying that, if, for example, you're a comrade, you send your girlfriend transport and they fail to show up. You saw like those things were mapangale outfit, So if it's a culture that people are already breeding itself, then it's wrong, because people will say that, oh, I know if I send my girlfriend transport and they do not show up, the culture that has been built that you are accepted to beat them. So I think it's more of a cultural thing that goes far beyond the discussions, the resources, or the recommendations. It emanates from the culture itself. You know, when we tell our young people that, you know, you are a young man in Kenya, you're not, this is Nairobi, you're not supposed to be crying, you should be out there. So I think it's a predominated thing that comes from the culture itself.
Right. There's also an economic aspect to it. A lot of young people, one, it's natural. It's a natural phase of life when you're studying. You know, you don't have money, it's okay. You're building towards the money.
Yes.
But because of the systemic defunding of education,
Yes.
help is rarely on time.
Yes.
Comrades are more or less skipping meals, and there's now the economic aspect that
Yes.
kind of fuels all of this. How
Yes.
do you see it being weaponized in student politics? You know, the economic state of the country and of comrades specifically.
Yes.
And what would be the fix in your view?
Yes, I think that economic aspect, if you look at it in terms of politics, whether it's for those who are already in the game itself or whether devolved in terms of like campus politics, there's something called structural dependency, okay? And this is something that we often see so much in politics, right? That I do not want to give you so much that will elevate you to start thinking in another way,
Yeah.
okay?
That
I
your
want to
basic
just-
needs are
yes,
met. Now you have time to wonder about
Yes,
other things,
I want to do
about
it,
policy.
Yes, I want to do it the Sudi way. I just want to give you enough that will still make you dependent on me. And that's why, you know, the handout politics will never stop, even in campuses. This is something that still goes on. So what we see so much is structural dependency. And it's something that is very systemic and that's even rooted in our own campuses, that you'll see somebody, they give just these basic handouts, right?
Yeah.
And even if you micromanage it into the national politics, this is how youths have been made so much dependent on the politicians, right? A politician, when they call a young person today and they hear you are a form for liver, they do not think, how then do I transit you to the next level, say, of education? But they ask you, how will you then be they are one of their political handler?
Right.
So that's structural dependency. How they fix is that some of us, this is now where the National Students Council in, we inform young people that aside things such as help, government is offering funds that will help them to, you know, economic innovate. There's, for example, the Nyota Fund, we have the Uwezo Fund, there was the Hustler Fund that we had. These things that do exist, many of us just assume them, and that's where the National Students Council come to then inform them. For example, in the Nyota Fund, we have almost 19,631 students who have been able to apply for it and get help under it. Uwezo Fund, we have over 64,000 students and young people who have got help under it. So this is kind of some of the, you know, funding programs that we enable and, you know, inform young people about, and how this will then, you know, help them.
There's a Nyota Fund.
Yeah, there's a Nyota Fund. Nyota Fund.
How long has it been in existence? Did you know?
I've heard
I
the
think
name
I've
Nyota
heard-
Fund.
yes, I've heard
but
the name, but
do I
not-
know its
It's-
work
it's-
or no? I can't lie.
Allah?
Tell
What
us about
is it?
Nyota Fund.
I mean, it's one of the funds that government has incentively brought to, you know, it's a replicant of the Hustler Fund, but one of those funds just to give for young people who are into small businesses, you know, giving them money for startups or something of the sort.
And this new one that the president is launching this week, what's it called? You know, there was the new one
Yes,
that he announced on Madaraka
Madaraka
Day,
Day.
Yes. I can't remember the
which
exact
is going to also be looking kujeni mkiwa sijui watu
Yes.
kumi
Yes, yes,
pesa.
yes.
All these funds,
Yes.
like you're saying, it's about people knowing.
Yes.
Are they actually doing the job that they ought to do?
Yes. I think they are doing the work they're supposed to be doing, but I think it all goes back to political goodwill. You know,
Whose?
I think the political class, even particularly in government. And what you often see in this country is that if there's no political goodwill in anything, things don't run. The technocrats' hands are tied. So if there's political goodwill, that's why you see the Hustler Fund. It's something that the president himself was part of. That's why you saw about 24.3 million Kenyans were able to apply and get help through it. It's because of primarily of that political goodwill.
How do we know that people are not getting handouts from these things?
Of course,
Like impact would be, like you
Yes,
say,
yes.
so and so accessed money from the Nyota Fund,
Yes.
and it transformed them this way.
Yes.
Or Uwezo Fund, or Hustler Fund, or the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, or the
Yes.
Women's Enterprise Fund, or the new
Yes.
one is called what? Do we
I
know
think
that?
it was, from what I'm seeing, was it Hustler Fund Loan or was it different?
No,
It
Hustler
had a different
Fund-
name. Loan.
Nyota, I think, is going through Hustler Fund. The monies do sometimes go. So I was trying to look.
Comes
up-
in through the Hustler
Yes.
Fund.
So it's called the National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement. Nyota.
Okay.
National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement.
Yes.
High impact 5-year initiative by the GOK, backed by the World Bank,
Yes.
designed to support vulnerable youths aged 18 to 29, extended to those 35. For those with disabilities across all counties. Now, I think it's going through, if I'm understanding it right, through Hustler Fund, funding a 20 billion shilling package supported by the World Bank and linked through the Hustler Fund. Am I correct
Yes,
in
yes.
saying that?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, to Eric's point, yeah, we funded Hustler Fund, Uwezo Fund,
Youth Enterprise
Youth
Fund.
Enterprise Fund, yes, Nyota Fund. Now, I know some that I've forgotten genuinely. Yeah, impact-wise, how do we make sure that these funds are actually working, especially for young people? Because it's usually a select few that will grab these monies, and them and their friends will eat and chop life and live large. And then the Nyota and the hustler and the woman and the youth are nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I think I think one of the incentives that government should more strengthen more so is the digital systems that are used during the application systems, because if in the past it was more manual, right? It depends whom do you know. So if we have the digital systems and the merit systems that merit restrictions that say you need to be this age bracket, so it cuts you out, automatically, and there is so much less of human interaction through this process. But I've always said, if somebody intends to be corrupt, they will be corrupt. I don't think anything would stop them from
That's
doing
what
that.
you set out to be.
Yes, they will
Imagine
be
waking
corrupt.
up to being like, today, I'm setting out to be corruct.
I don't think you say it like that.
Yes.
It's just like Leona collects how much. Yeah. You don't clock it as corruption.
That's true.
Yeah.
For you, it's just like I'm doing my
Yeah.
thing.
It's the hustle.
It's the hustle. We're going into a break. It's coming up to 8:30. We have Mark Ouko in studio, Youth Coordinator for the National Students Council of Kenya, speaking about youth and leadership. And we'll still get back after the break and talk a little bit about the journey towards 2027 and beyond, the role of young people, where their mindset is, and what we need to do to just make sure that we're making the right decision. Then we'll be back after this break.
112 500 400.
Max, you see, it's very easy.
It's very easy.
Yes,
We should
yes,
have
it's
our
very easy.
Send us
Yeah, you'll do that.
email
I'll do it.
after the show.
we should have
Yes,
our
I'll
guests
do it.
just saying cosine.
Yes, yes.
Or just say Mariam, just write that one. Oh yeah, they make they put their faces in the frame.
Nitengeneze kama hiyo. Yeah, you tell me.
I'm just trying to look at feedback. Smallest ever really seems to be taken in by Mark. For the first time, I've witnessed a young sage speaking, and wow, his wisdom is electrifying. Somebody here is saying it's under the ministry. That's what Peter Otieno is asking. So I think he has questions about how much then, whether it's, I don't know, independence or how much pushback you're able to give the ministry, given that it's under the docket. Yeah, I think that's just some of the feedback that's coming in on YouTube. To be honest, this individual is full of wisdom. I'll vote for him. So yeah, just some of the feedback coming in. I don't know if there's any other on Facebook. We can look at it later.
Unasimama kiti gani?
I'm going to run for Member of Parliament for Moroni constituency in 2027, and I will win.
Why? Why MP?
At 8 a.m. No, I think it's, over time, what I've seen happening from my place, I think it sounds very generic, but, it's what you see over time happening from where you come from and just the desire to change for the lives for the young people. And it's also been a push call from, many young people from Moroni constituency that I should give it a head on. And I'm going to win.
I wish you all the best.
Yes.
But Mark, I see many times people saying, I'm going to vie here because I want to bring development in my area and my... Have you sat down with the people of Muhoroni, for example, and asked them what their needs are?
Yes.
And then looked at those needs and seen these needs deserve... the job that can solve these needs is that of an MP.
Yes.
And not governor, not president, not MCA.
Yes. I remember watching some show some time back when you hosted Lukoya Toli.
Yes.
Excuse of therapy, whatever he was saying about people who delude themselves as, I'm the right, I'm the only person who decides.
I'm the solution.
I'm the solution, the panacea to all the problems.
Right.
Yes, I think it also comes from, historical record of, the many positions that I've also vied for and track record of the things that I've done. I've interacted with the people of Moroni constituency and had their problems. And I think, staying at a member of parliament seat will be, realistically the best place to, solve those problems.
Do the people of Moroni know
Yes.
that the job of a member of parliament is oversight, legislation, and representation?
No,
Do they expect you to build a school?
The average voter wants you to do that.
They want you to build a school.
build the school.
Yes.
And you want to take that job.
Yeah.
Yes, you want.
Will
I
you
will
build the
want-
school?
Will you build the school?
We'll do it. We have the constituency development fund, and there is money delegated for for bursaries, such kind of things. Yeah.
So you think an MP's job should be that?
No, but you see, that's not the work of the MP. But you see, when your proximity to the people, once you're already the member of parliament, they expect you to be doing such kind of jobs. It's just something that inherently people have in their mind.
So, then we're not fixing. We're just tunaendeleza tu shida. We're just like, okay, now it's my turn to do what the other person was doing. Because I think part of the lack of understanding of the role of various elected representatives is part of the problem we have with our governance, because then you don't hold them accountable to what they should be doing. We'll hold our MPs accountable when the school is not built, when the children don't have bursaries, but we don't ask them about why did you vote yes on the finance bill? What legislation have you introduced? What So then if you go in and continue doing the same thing, they'll say, even these young people, they ask for leadership and then they go and do the same thing.
No, I think, yes, I do agree with you, and especially when you're on this kind of platform, of course, it will actually make sense. But when you go to Moroni constituency, I don't know which constituency you come from.
I come from many.
Many.
Kuna za home, there's so many, but yeah.
Yeah, you
Where
must.
do you vote?
In
That's the
Rongai,
one.
in Kajiado.
That's the one.
Kajiado
That's your
North.
constituency.
Sawa
Yes.
basi, in Kajiado North.
I think you must model your prospects to the especially politically, to the average thinker there. I think the way, say, President Ruto will be speaking on this space won't be the same way he will be conversing to, an average voter in Sugoi. It's completely different. And I think this is just a culture that Kenyans build. Kenyans don't like good people. They don't like nice politicians. You'll never get elected.
Right.
They don't like nice politicians.
Marco, never is a big word. See, we're trying to move towards.
Mark
He
has
makes-
told us
he's
he
made up-
is going to be elected.
So are
And then he
you
has told us Kenyans don't elect
like
good people.
nice
He's saying he wants to get in there, play the game, and hopefully
They
change
elect
the game.
good people. They don't elect nice people.
Okay. Difference between good and nice.
Yeah,
Sapo.
Mark, you're not pitching yourself very well.
We shall know.
Let's start again.
Yes.
What's
takes-
the
yeah, go
difference between good and nice? Sorry, Jan.
No, it's a good question.
And nice. Nice people ni wagani.
Nice people are people. I think they are. I don't know how to say it. This is something over. I'll normally see,
Pole.
especially in romantic context. A nice guy and a good guy.
Oh,
Yes.
Nice guys finish last is what you're saying.
Yes, I've often heard that thing. Nice people, people don't feel some sense of aggressivity from you. I don't know.
You're too soft.
It's too soft.
Atupendi watu wapole.
Yes.
Aya.
Yeah.
I saw in a series, the compliment is "You're so baby girl." So the guy was
Wow.
asking, "What does that mean?" She's like, "Take it as a compliment." This was Gen Z telling an ex, "You're so baby girl."
You're so baby girl.
Meaning, actually, it's a guy who's usually nice and charming. He's a nice guy. He stands up for people. Things are changing very quickly.
Yes.
I think I still want to talk to what you've just said, because if we're going to shift a system, then why go into a broken system to just maintain the brokenness of the system? How does Mark say you're going to win that seat, right? 2027, you get it, you go in there, you run the risk of being co-opted, of doing the same things that you voted out. So how do you make those decisions then? Are you saying, I want to be part of a broken system because it is what it is? Or are you saying, no, I want to be part of the broken system to eventually figure out how to fix it?
Yeah, I think what happens is that in terms of change, I've often opined it normally emanates from institutional changes, right? Structural changes. I don't think as a person individually you're able to make a significant change that will make, a societal change, something that, will give an entire overhaul. I think these things emanates from if we do not advocate for the change of institutions, then, at the end of the day, things will still be, the more things change, the more things still remain the same. Yes.
Okay.
Do you think the young people of, let's just use Muhoroni as an example here,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Are they any different from, if you look at the Gen Z, the millennials
Yes.
in Muhoroni,
Yes.
are they any different political thinking than the X generation?
Yes.
What's the one from X?
After?
No,
X.
Boomer.
The boomers.
Oh, boomers,
What's the alphabet?
Hi, Boomer. After that.
It's
W.
Before Boomer.
Was it W?
Oh my gosh.
It's Boomer
W,
X.
X, Y.
No, there's boomer, then alpha, not alpha, no,
X.
X.
It's Boomer, then X.
The boomers
Boomer,
are W.
X, then millennials.
Yes, then
So
Then millennials, yeah.
Yes.
are they the Gen Z and millennials of Muhoroni different from their parents and grandparents, politically speaking?
Not really. I don't think there is so much in terms of political speaking, but I think there are certain traits that we are seeing emerging from the Gen Z generation. They are more aggressive in terms of what they are. They are more tech savvy. Of course, there are certain traits that they are quite different from their parents. But in terms of as to whether these will be convertible to something meaningful, I don't think so much so. And the biggest challenge normally with the Gen Z generation, I think it's normally the lack of organization around them. And I've always been asked a number of times, a number of platforms that I've gone, is the Gen Z bloc enough to remove, say, William Samoei Ruto from power, from the presidential seat? And I've always told people, if you are to hold an election, even today, the winner of that presidential election will be William Samoei Ruto. For this simple fact, not because that even William Samoei Ruto is that popular. The approval rating of William Samoei Ruto is today is at 12%, but it is because of this mere fact. An organized minority will always beat a disorganized majority any day, any time. When you have a disorganized majority, people are all over everywhere. You cannot beat an organized minority. And I think that's why even the political class is not so much concerned around the Gen Zs. And one of the things that I've always told my fellow young people, that election is not like the finance bill. This is not a singular moment that where you can build momentum, then say reject finance bill. No, election is a process. It's a cumulative process. It's the one who prepares himself the most will win the day. I've heard even some Gen Z saying they're going to sleep on polling stations, whatever. I'm telling you, if somebody even has the intention to steal an election, even if all the Gen Zs go and sleep in all these polling stations, that person will steal. They'll still steal the election. So the problem that we have is that we're driven so much with euphoria, so much momentum, and not organized in terms of our numbers.
What would organization look like?
I think
If you were to fix it now, you as a youth coordinator, Students Council of Kenya, you basically have about 16 million youth that you're coordinating.
yes.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that you realize about Gen Zs is that they like working under decentralized structures. Gen Zs don't like that bossy, hierarchical kind of thing. I don't know. It's very. I'm also a Gen Z. That's
Mariam,
kind of.
accept your fate.
Are you a Gen Z?
Zillennial.
She just graduated.
I graduated.
She was
I
Gen Z 2
just-
years ago.
I just
I was Gen
graduated. I just graduated.
Yes. So the thing
But very much a Gen Z in spirit.
yes. I feel that's Gen Z spirit so much from you. So the thing you see about Gen Z is that they like decentralized structures, partyless, tribeless, no bosses, no hierarchical needs. Even in the job spaces, you'll see this so much. They don't want to be pushed, and this only works in activism. In politics, you can never go against the tide. No matter the kind of revolution, it normally narrows down back to the tide. Okay, so in politics, what works is centralized structures. So I've told many young people, you ask many people, they say they do not want Ruto. And they say, we are going to vote even if it's just voting for a frog, as long as you're not voting for William Ruto. I'm saying when you vote for that frog, you are returning William Ruto back to power. That's disorganization. So I've told them is that first you need to understand how the political, what's the political psychology of Kenyans, right? Now, for example, if you have the intent of removing William Samoei Ruto, which I don't think it will be so much likable in 2027, Kenyans vote based on familiarity, and I told you this, okay? So you normally, and I've had some analogy done by Fanya Mambo, is that even if you don't want William Ruto, the person who is going to take his seat will most probably be somebody who has been in the room. It can be Kalonzo Musyoka, it can be Matiang'i, it can be Rigathi Gachagua, but they will not vote for Morara Kibaso. Kenyans vote based on familiarity. They say, huyu amekuja juzi. Even if you ask them, will you vote for Babu? They say, no, Babu is still young, whatever. So we need to form if they have the intent of removing William Ruto, get one person. The only way you can remove William Ruto is only if you have two candidates. And everybody say we have, because in elections people don't vote for somebody, they vote against.
100% true.
So we come and we say everybody against Ruto. But once the moment you have 10 candidates, it will be a reincarnation of the 1992 scenario, where you have everybody hates President Moi. His approval rating is at 34%, but the votes are distributed. Matiba is like the Matiang'i of our today, came from USA and everybody there. Then you have Kibaki, you have Raila. The votes are distributed. William Ruto just brings his minority. He takes back power.
You're right. And it's something we've said on the show time and time again. There needs to be some organization. There needs to be rallying behind one candidate. That's the only way Ruto goes home in 2027. The how is now the problem. Do you think an umbrella party, for example, the opposition are already forming, small umbrellas, coalitions, etc.
Yes.
Do you think that would be sufficient? If it incorporates then young people, or even without incorporating young people, do you think it would be possible? Because they're moving ahead. They're saying, you know what, if a young person comes in, but Martha Karua, Kalonzo, they're already coalescing. How dare I forget Rigiji?
In the opposition, there are only three serious characters, right? Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Fred Matiang'i. The rest, I think, it's just there for busybodies or perhaps the name. Somebody like Eugene Wamalwa. You ask how many votes does Eugene Wamalwa have? I think them is just for the name. Martha Karua was not even able to deliver votes for Raila last time from her own village. Not even more than 50 votes from our own village. How will you take such a character seriously? Now, for the three serious characters, as to whether they will then convert to something serious. Now, the problem with Rigathi Gachagua is this. Rigathi Gachagua, going by the binding that legally he cannot now run, he will want to support somebody. Now, for Rigathi Gachagua, he would want to be the president by de facto and support a candidate who will be president by de jure. And that will be most likely Kalonzo Musyoka. There will be so much.
He's easy to.
No, it will be much easier for him to work with Kalonzo Musyoka. The challenge with Kalonzo Musyoka, I don't think he will have so many members of parliament. Then he doesn't have that national so much support. Fred Matiang'i was the favorite Gen Z candidate last year. I had so many candidates, Gen Z saying.
Maraga?
No, not Maraga. I think many people are saying we want Matiang'i because how effective was. There's one fundamental mistake that Matiang'i did. The idea of Matiang'i being president emanated during the Gen Z rebellion. It was a byproduct of that. It was one of the byproducts that you want Matiang'i to come back. The mistake that he did is that immediately he came back to the country, he retreated back to the normal settings. He first went to look for his tribal backyard. Now the way he's being fronted is no longer the Gen Z candidate,
He's the
but
Kisii candidate.
the Kisii candidate.
Let me share some feedback on YouTube. First, Rose Simbiri, I'm the only person that can take Ruto home his baba.
Currently, all the other leaders wamesota sahi. Okay. Brighton
So ni
Omondi.
pesa. Si popularity.
Yeah, I think so.
Resources matter.
Aha.
Okay.
Brighton Omondi is calling Mark a rutonated man. Take that feedback as you will. McCoy, one password official. Parliament is cursed. Once you join, you become a character like the rest. You can make a change even without joining Parliament. I think he should start seeing things from a different angle. So you'll just listen and see what you'll react to, Mark.
Yes.
Rose again is saying Gen Z politics angle will mess so many leaders come 2027 because Baba understands the game. That's according to Rose. Charles Ndungo, over time, I've been listening to Mark and I've come to the conclusion, amekula, ameshiba, that's it. David Mangera, that one I agree. A disorganized majority won't win against an organized minority, although I think it was the other way around. So any reactions, Mark, to some of what folks are saying?
Some more?
Yeah.
On WhatsApp, and please, when you're sending your comment on WhatsApp, just indicate your name as well, so we can quote you by name. It sounds like Mark, in spite of being young, has internalized the older politicians' ethos. Good morning, fixers. This man needs security. Oozing out such wisdom right now could plunder him into serious lethal actions. Anyway, this man is such a vibe. I love the conversation. And on Facebook, someone Mwangi says, I like the wisdom from the young man. It's not the right time for us Gen Zs to say we are leaderless or partyless. We might end up as losers.
I don't know if Mary so okay. Now,
Sorry, no,
okay.
but they're on the screen. Yeah, just respond to those first before we.
From the comments on what you've had so far.
Now, perhaps Janet and Latif, from what I've read. Now, in politics, there are two forms of correctness that you can have. I don't know if there's a word such as correctness. You can be either popularly correct or you can be factually correct, okay? So what I'm trying to decipher, particularly towards 2027 prospect, is what is factually correct, okay? Because I've often told young people, even if you look at the finance bill, the finance bill was passed. Legally, it was passed. But it was because of that general momentum of the public that was able to cast it out. I normally don't like acclimatizing my thoughts around that which will sound so popular. But I love telling people what is factually correct, okay? So if you look at the numbers, yes, we are ahead, etc., but there is clearly lack of organization amongst the young people.
Okay.
The question is how, it's also assuming that just because you're young,
Yes.
you all think the same.
Yes.
Even the old people don't think the same, and that's why you have so many political parties. That's why you saw in 1992, they were all saying yes, Moi, go.
Yes.
But the how, they did not agree.
Yes.
They ended up with Jaramogi and Matiba wamekosana wamevunja suo. Kila mtu achukue half yake afford.
Yes.
Go yours.
Yes.
Mwai Kibaki comes with his DP.
Yes.
And so on and so forth.
Yes.
It's the same thing that will happen even now.
Yes.
The young people,
Yes.
they may all agree that yes, we want a change
Yes.
and leadership.
Yes.
But the who
Yes.
is the challenge.
Yes.
And there comes the disorganization that you're talking about.
Yes.
How do you get them organized that, okay, ni sawa,
Yes.
we do not agree on who
Yes.
who next,
Yes.
but we agree on who not next.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how should then people, not just young people, how should the population that feels
Yes.
that they'd like a change in leadership organize better?
Yes, and I think the organization doesn't even necessarily start by being on a party or whatever. It starts by just telling people, go and register as a voter, okay? So that in 2027, government does not invest on distracting you using AFCON, because there will be AFCON in 2027. Start by just registering as a voter, okay? Join some political outfit. Because once we know, say, for example, Wiper Party has this number of millions of Gen Zs, and this outfit has this, it's normally easy to work with organized numbers. There also another thing, I've also heard so many people say, yeah, Mark Ouko is talking so much like the older generation, whatever. One thing that's normally funny is that people tend to think is that having a young MP is conversable to good leadership. It's not entirely true. Yeah, it's not entirely true that if you have savings, and I've heard this so much, that we need young people in whatever. We need young people in the media space. We need the young people in whatever. Is it really conversable to effectiveness? No, it narrows down to the person itself, because you might have somebody who is 50 years, 40 years, but they're still able to do the work effectively more than even the 20 years. I've always said this oftentimes. That's let us utilize the wisdom of the older generation, and compatible is it using the strength of the young people. There's so much that I can learn from Janet, I can learn from Eric, that the two of us can learn from you, from your experience that the two of us may not have. And there's so much strength that the two of us have, that your strength is been degenerating over time because of, obviously.
Co-leadership.
Yes.
Right.
Co-leadership. I know we're going into a break. I'd like to come back and, I don't know, a part of me is conflicted about the conversation, because I'm like, okay, I get what he's saying. I get that Mark is saying there's a way people need to come together and vote in the right way. I'm still feeling a sense of there's no shift per se. It almost sounds like plugging into what already exists as opposed to disrupting or pushing back against. So I want to see if we can fix that. And I was just looking at some of how Thomas Sankara did it. And I'm like, okay, so it's doable. So we can come back and unpack what Thomas Sankara did. I know we're in very different landscapes.
Yes.
I know that there were some blemishes towards the end of his reign, but I think it's possible. I think there's a radicalness that's missing in the conversation that people are afraid to push on. We need to get into radical reforms. And radical reforms start by pushing back from the onset. But we'll come back to that. It's coming up to 3 minutes to 9 a.m. Fixing the Nation on NTV, Nation FM, and across our digital platforms. We'll come back with this conversation. Don't go away. The value.
Mark Ouko is the next MP for Muhoroni constituency, according to him.
I have never lost an election in my life.
Wow.
And you're not about to start.
This won't be the first.
Mark, it's really giving some worrying trend.
You may think
things that
this guy is 60. He has around 65 elections.
Mark,
How many
Mark
elections
has been here before.
If I vie, I knew I will win. If I don't vie, I knew I will not win.
Okay.
If you vie and lose,
No, I've never lost an election.
or if you do lose.
If I know I'm going to lose, I will not vie.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So, Thomas Sankara radically transformed Burkina Faso's politics between 1983 and 1987. How did he do this? He prioritized self-reliance, anti-corruption, and social justice. He renamed the country, I don't know that we need to go there, Upper Volta to Burkina Faso translates to land of the upright people. He slashed government privileges. There's so many videos of him getting into a car that's sort of like, the size of a Toyota Vitz. Him and his ministers, he forced all of them to do that. Redistributed land, invested heavily in health, education, and women's rights. There's a day that I was watching where he told people to put themselves in the day in the life of as a woman. He made the male counterparts do that. He's like, I just want you guys to experience what it is that they do, what their challenges are, so that we can talk about how we can support women's rights. He challenged neocolonialism and global debt and inspired a very people-centered political movement. It still resonates in Africa today. Granted, there was a few blemishes. People were saying at some point there was stifling of, being able to push back against him. Opposition is critical at any point. He was against it. So there was a few blemishes towards his death, but still radical. But what I'm not hearing is that push for radical reforms from you, Mark. You're, in a sense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying it is what it is. So what we do is we go with how it's going, and then we figure it out ukombele, as opposed to, and maybe this is for somebody else to say, we have to completely be radical from the onset and think about the reforms we want. We have to push back against corruption. We have to not accept that if I become MP, I'm going to have to be the one giving bursaries or building schools. Instead, I'm going to be radical about making sure the constituents understand that this is my job, that it's oversight and legislature. But are you dancing in the middle, or are you sort of swaying more towards let things be as they are? And in that sense, are we changing anything?
Yeah, so one of the things about me, Janet, is that I have never been a fan of revolutionary kind of politics. Yeah, I don't like the revolutionary kind of politics because at the end of the day, especially radical kind of politics, at the long run, especially, it also depends with the kind of things that a country wants to achieve. Okay, so for example, you see a more commensurate example to the one that you've given about Sankara is in Tanzania, where there was that radical communism, the Ujamaa, whatever, by, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. And of course, there are certain gains that were made because he was able to merge the tribes together and all that. But if you look in terms of did this economically help Tanzania? It didn't so much because, and these are often, I do not like liberalism. I don't believe in so much in liberalism.
You're a conservative.
You're
Not so much a conservative.
Man.
I'm a moderate person because I've always believed that things that are built over time. And one of the things, there's this general feeling that sometimes I get in social media that it's as if Kenya is in some extraordinary kind of moment. No, Kenya is doing okay. If you look at even compare us to our, our peers in the continent, Kenya is doing okay. We are okay. You can come to job. Of course, there, kasongo taxes here and there, but we are okay. Generally, you're okay. You can even come.
Can I push back on that? I think compared to our neighbors,
Yes.
100% doing a lot better in some
Yes.
indicators.
Yes. Yes.
Some, though falling down the ladder more and more every day.
In terms of what?
In terms of, an easy one is our commitment, our economy, for example. Growth has been shrinking. Ethiopia grew faster than us for the first time in the last year. Our commitment to human rights.
Actually, we grew faster than Ethiopia, I think.
Oh, we grew faster than Ethiopia.
Ethiopia has been, in the days of Meles Zenawi, they were doing 10.
The rate at which our GDP has
No, I'm
grown-
just doing year on year,
Okay.
not that far back.
Yes.
But our commitment to human rights, another very easy one, known as the beacon of whatever democracy in East Africa. Now, we're all more or less in the same boat. But even when we think about ourselves as doing better than, we are not doing better than we were doing yesterday. I always feel like you gauge yourself with yourself, right? Are we growing faster? Are we doing better in our commitment to our constitution? I don't think so. So when we say that we should be more I don't know what's the word. Yeah, less radical about the way we do things. The complacency has kept us more or less in the same place for decades. So then isn't it time for something radical to happen, a big shift? Because that's how we got here. It was let's take things slowly. Let's push a little, but not too much because we don't want to upset the powers that be or the status quo. That's how we got here. So when do we know it's time to actually, get into gear 5? No, that's reverse. To get, to
accelerate.
Yeah.
The thing that happens is that even if you have the structural changes, whatever the structural changes, what you realize that the players will still remain the same. Okay, even say when you are saying by 202, say that KANU should go. We are having new parties. But you see the people who are forming NAC, all these were KANU people. They were just rebranded to something new, okay? It was just rebranded to something new, okay? So you have the constitution of 2010. You have the person who was leading against it is William Samoei Ruto. But this is the same person in 2022, all Kenyans still elect to be the sole caretaker of this constitution.
Right.
So we shall still coexist in that ecosystem, whether we change structurally. And this is the thing, Kenya is growing. We are not in the same place where we were decades when Moi was the president. Even if you look at constitutionally, economically, there are a number of advancements that we have made as a country. It's only that, of course, sometimes, there mistakes do happen. And mistakes happen over the country. But let us do this, is that...
I'm thinking structural adjustment programs in Moi's time. Here we are, getting our financial advice or whatever from the IMF and the World Bank.
Different.
I'm thinking
Very different, Mariam. What?
I'm not refusing that they are different, but there are some similarities,
Yeah, but
I'm thinking of our human rights records in the 90s versus now, abductions, torture, killings, etc. Now
there's a difference.
There's a resurgence. What's the difference? What's the major difference? Other than it's visible now.
And
The intensity,
the
perhaps.
rule of law is now clear. All right? That you could do it, you could get away with it with impunity. Now, you will definitely not get away with it.
Well, I'd love to see that.
You will.
On paper,
I
you
am
definitely
saying
wouldn't get away with
You will
it.
definitely not get away
On
with it.
paper.
You may get away with it today. But our rule of law is such that you will definitely not get away with it. If Moi did not get away with all the matters of torture, if we got people who went to court and they got courts ruling in their favor, that
he died a free man.
You were wrongfully incarcerated by the state and the state ought to pay you. There are people who got
Compensation, yes.
who've gotten justice over that. Now, this is another one where we're saying, in our current situation, there will definitely be a case that goes to court and it will find culpability. And the culpability will move from states to individuals.
We hope so.
Our rule of law right now is completely different.
Better. I don't think
Yet
so.
to see, but okay. Your parting
even heard you were saying
Yeah, you have about a minute, yeah.
Oh, you have a better
Yes, your parting state, your
Yeah.
parting shot.
Yeah, my parting shot is say that I think although there is that clamor for change and all that, I'm not against it, right? And of course there are spaces that we should still grow, but I think I have always believed in moderate kind of development that is easy to track, it's easy to development. This revolutionary feeling and all that, I don't because in the process there's so many people who die, so a lot of things get distracted. So the moderate system that we're working in as a country better working for us. And another thing that I also want to say is that one of the revolutionary feelings that we're feeling right now is people are saying that Ruto must go, Ruto must go. And I've always said this, a bad government is much better than no government.
But we have...
Okay.
We don't have... Okay, because
we're
we have
out
to
of
wrap
time.
up. We wouldn't have a vacuum if he leaves.
Yeah.
We have a constitution, we have structures. There is no vacuum that would occur, right? Correct. Okay, watch it when we have to really wrap up. We'll be going on a short break now as we head over to the Petroleum Summit happening at the Radisson Blu. We hosted the Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum, Opio Wandai. He'll be there as well, hopefully answering some of the questions that we brought up more in depth. I know there'll be panels and a lot more happening. Just a look at what's happening kwa ground pale Radisson Blu ni kama ndio wanaomba. Yes.